Hello everybody. So today we're going to learn a little bit about gray coverage, the wella way. Oh my god. Whoa, that's hot. Ginger and cayenne. I didn't realize that's what was in this. So, like I said earlier, today's topic is all going to be about gray coverage for those stubborn gray hairs. So first off, we have to figure out what the heck is gray coverage. Now in wella, they come up with this really cool swatch chart. So this shows us level 2 through level 10, and then the underlying pigment or lightning curve, if you will, of what would show up as you start lightening hair at that level. So this is something that's on your swatch book if you have it. Most hair color lines, if you're not using wella, still have this. But on the back side, we've got this cool little indicator which shows you 25, 50%, or 75% unpigmented white hairs. So this is gonna be your little gauge to know if you are dealing with gray coverage and how to go about formulating the correct way for it. So a lot of stylists don't use these things. I've done hair for 12 years. I still use these all the time. I try to make sure I got the natural level on people, all that good stuff. So use these freaking things. Other thing that's important is I've had people in the past who had helped and they've said, Angelo, help me figure out how to cover this person's hair color. How much gray is there? And they go, oh, she's got like 50% gray hair. And I go, and there's not even this much. And I'm like, okay. So you only have to really worry about gray coverage when you're dealing with at least 25%, or if maybe someone has a spot, you know. But what we're going to be talking about today is when you see hair like this or this, any of this. But typically when it's scattered white hair amongst the natural hair. So bear with me. First thing we got to talk about is something called saturation. Now, when I say that word, a lot of times people think about how much hair color is put on the head. That's not what I'm talking about. Saturation is going to be how complex a color is. So, for instance, if we look at the color wheel, okay, primary colors are red, blue, and yellow, right? They're colors that cannot be made. You cannot make them with anything. You have to use them straight out of their tube. You can't make blue, you can't make red, and you can't make gold. What you can make, however, is secondary colors, so orange, green, and violet, by combining the colors that are next to each other. So yellow and red make orange, red and blue make violet, yellow and blue make green. So those are secondary colors. Secondary colors are more saturated than primary colors, and the reasoning is you've used two colors to get a new color. So now that is a more complex thing. So if we're talking about, for instance, red and blue make violet, that's a more saturated color than red or blue standing alone. You with me? Now, if we start adding to the mix, we've got red and blue to make violet. And if we start adding yellow to the mix, we're going to end up somewhere in the middle here. Okay? This is what we call neutral. In wella world, it's represented by a 0. So, neutral being made of 3 parts, red, yellow, blue, is going to be the most saturated color you can get. It's going to have the most brown or most depth, if you will. And this is why it's necessary if we're dealing with gray hair, because those little white hairs between all the natural hair are hair that have no pigment left to them. So this is why we need neutral in our formula to therefore give some sort of depth or brownness to the unpigmented hair. Okay, so that is saturation, and we will talk about gray coverage. Now, when you're dealing with gray coverage and you're dealing with wella, typically your go-to, because there's options here, y'all, typically we're going to go for Koleston Perfect hair color, cream hair color, and we're going to usually use 20 volume. Okay, and you notice I'm seeing the words typically and usually because there's always a scenario where you're going to have to deter from these rules. Typically though, KP, 20 volume, go to. What you'll see for gray coverage is you're going to see 3 different options, and they're going to look sort of like this. So you're going to see something like, this is level 4s. You're going to see something like 4-stroke nothing, 4-stroke 0, meaning 4 neutral, and then 4-4-stroke 0. That's going to be double pigmented level 4 neutral. Okay, the way that I like to think about which one to choose, fine, medium, coarse. So if you're working on my hair texture, I don't know if anyone has ever known my hair texture or seen it or touched it, but I have extremely really fine hair. So if I had gray hair and I was going to cover it, I would go for what we call the pure line, 4 pure. Now, typically when you're doing gray coverage, you're going to be working in this family. But a lot of times people go for this family, which isn't necessarily wrong, but usually people aren't diagnosing the hair texture correctly. And what happens if you use this on hair that is not large stranded, meaning when you pluck one hair out and you feel it in your fingers, it's going to feel like a guitar string, like a wire. This is for large stranded hair. Now, if you think about this, less pigment, more pigment, even though they're all level 4, okay? If I put this one on my hair, because my hair is skinny and fine, it feels like silk when I run it through my fingers, it's gonna put all that dye in my skinny hair strands, and my level 4 might look like a level 2. So this is why it's really, really important to assess the hair texture that you're working on and the gray coverage. A lot of times people go for double pigments because they think automatically gray hair is coarser, gray hair is more stubborn, and you need more oomph. It's not always true. So really just making sure you're using this thing, because there's also fine, medium, coarse here. Yep, I did that right. And then there's also gray here, and then there's underlying pigment and levels. So this is a very complicated thought process to remember all these things. What's their hair texture like? What's their underlying pigment gonna be? Do I need double pigment or not? How much gray is there? There's a lot of things that go on in your brain at once, and you're just trying to talk to your client. They're like, how's your day? So I'm gonna try to make it real easy. So in the Wella booklets, there is these families of hair color, typically in Koleston Perfect and Color Touch, and they're gonna have different tabs on the boxes, and they're gonna look something like this. So this is the Pure Natural line. You know, this is beige. This is for Pure. We've got 4-stroke 0, and we've got our 4-4-stroke 0. Okay, so if you look at them on the swatches, you're going to see they're in this Pure Natural tablet, which is going to be this family right here. When you're dealing with gray, you need something in this realm to be in your formula in order to get your hair color to be gray coverage. So if you look at them all closely, I'm not going to, well, you can look at them very, very quickly, all that kind of stuff. What these are going to say is you're going to find your 4-stroke, 5-stroke, all that stuff. Your 4-stroke 0, 5-stroke 0, all the way up to a level 10-stroke 0, 3-3-stroke 0, all the way up to 9-9-stroke 0, so on and so forth. But you're going to have pre-mixed shades. So you'll have your like neutral ashes, you'll have your neutral golds, your neutral browns. It's all going to be pre-done for you. Those are the ones that are the most common. So just knowing that we need something in the gray tab to deal with this gray coverage. Now we're going to go into formulation. So typically when people want their gray covered, they're usually just looking to get their gray covered back to their natural, most cases, okay? Sometimes people are looking to go a little lighter, a little darker, but usually they just want those white hairs gone. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of how to formulate for this and make this a lot more easy. I have come up with a scenario of a client named Sue. I don't know who Sue is. I've never worked on Sue. She's not a real person. She's a fake. She's a faker, a mother faker. So Sue, okay, I've just made a pretend equation here. So up top here, we've got Sue. We've got natural level NL is a 5. Our target level below that is still a 5. Our percentage of gray hair is going to be 25% gray. So using our little swatch thingy right here, we know that she's going to be in this realm of gray. So minimal gray coverage. Desired tone, she wants to say a neutral tone. And our target, or our texture is normal. So knowing that her texture is normal, we're not going to go for the pure line or the double pigment line. We're going to go for the stroke 0. So that's going to be for normal hair in Angelo's world. It's the way that Angelo teaches things. Because we're covering gray, we automatically know we would probably want to use 20 volume developer. So I'm going to write that down over here. 20 volume. So we've established one thing. 20 volume for gray coverage, okay? We want to keep the level at the same level, so we're going from a level 5 to a level 5, we're going to stick with a level 5. Okay, so we need a 20 volume and a level 5 something. So here's the other thing that's going to pick in the mix. So we know that because she's 25% gray hair, we need 25% of our formula to be a neutral tone. So we're going to use 5-stroke 0. So 20 volume, 25% of our formula is going to be 5-stroke 0. The other 75%, because we know we want to stay a cool tone or a neutral tone, when we start lightening the hair, because even though we're using 20 volume, we're going to get about a level of lift even though we're staying at level 5, we know that we're going to we are going to expose underlying pigment, and it's typically going to be in this red world. So here's where you get to have creative options. The opposite of red is going to be green. Okay, in Wella, we do not have a 5-2. 2 would be green, at least in Koleston Perfect. We do, however, have ash. Ash is going to be considered a gray formula. And so because that's our only option, I would suggest we use 5-stroke 1, which is going to be our 5 gray ash. And we're going to use this in a ratio of 75%. So, in this scenario that I just gave you with Sue's hair, okay, natural level 5, target level 5. We're using all level 5s here, 20 volume, gray coverage. Percentage of unpigmented hair is 25%, so 25% of our formula is going to be natural, and our desired tone is neutral. So knowing that we're going to get that red underlying pigment, we're going to use something opposite the color wheel. 5-stroke 1 going to be gray ash, 75% to 25%, and all of this is going to give us all of this. I hope that makes sense. So let's do another example. So now we've got Karen in our chair. Karen. I have a story about a Karen, but I'm not going to tell it right now. I don't know why I choose to use that name. So in this situation, we've got Karen in our chair, and Karen wants to have her gray covered. Karen's natural level is a 6. Her target level is going to be 1 shade lighter, meaning a level 7. The percentage of unpigmented hair she has is 50%. So it's going to look something like that. Desired tone, finish tone, meaning something you're ending with. Her desired tone is to be somewhere in the spectrum of neutral to warm. And this is not something she decided. This is something that I decided would look best on her, and she said, yes, sounds good. Okay? Pet peeve of mine, giving your guests too many options. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? You're the professional. Make them happy, but give your insight. There's a video coming about that. And then finally, our texture is fine, okay? Fine hair texture like my own. I don't know if you can really see, but I have really baby fine hair. So in Karen's world, we're going to go 1 shade lighter. So what volume we're going to use? 20 volume, right? So that's perfect because we're already going to do that because we're doing gray coverage. So we know we're going to use 20 volume. That's the easy part. We'll get 1 level of lift out of Karen's fine hair. And then we know that we've got 50% gray hair, so we know that half of our formula is going to be either pure, neutral, or double pigment neutral. And the other half is going to consist of our target color. So we're going to use, in Karen's case, because her hair's fine, go for maybe just the 7-stroke, the 7 pure, as opposed to the 7-stroke 0 or the 7-stroke 0, because if we do that, if we use 7-stroke 0 or 7-stroke 0 on Karen's fine hair, what we might get is a level 6. We might get a whole level darker. So we know we're going to use 50% of our formula is going to be 7 pure. And then the other 50% is going to be something also in the level 7 world. Okay. And what we could do is we could do 717. Sounds like a good formula. I'm sure that everyone down the hall is hearing me do this and thinking I'm crazy. So the reason we're using 7-stroke 17 in this situation with 7 pure is we're going to, hold on, let me put this in a box. So we know that when we use 20 volume with our level 6 going to a level 7, what we're going to expose is we're going to expose something in this world. An orange to an orange gold. Okay, but we don't want to necessarily fight it all the way. We want to work with it because Karen's desired level or desired tone, based off what we talked about with her, is going to be neutral to warm. So 7 pure for her fine texture in 50% because she's got 50% gray hair. 20 volume because we're dealing with gray hair. And our target color, so now we've taken care of all the gray with this and this. Target color is going to be 717. It's going to be a level 7 ash brown. So meaning a cool with a warm to counteract underlying pigment we have, therefore leaving us with a neutral to warm result. Gray is covered, everything's honky-dory, no problems. So, cool, isn't it? Okay, so now we got Becky in our chair. Okay, now Becky has hair that she wants to go darker with, but she also wants to cover her gray. So in Becky's case, Becky has natural level 5, would like to be a level 4, so going 1 shade darker. She has 75% gray hair. Desired tone is going to be something warm. So we know something warm at a level 4 is going to be quite chocolatey and very deep. And then finally, we've got her hair texture is going to be very, very, very coarse. So again, in this situation, we're going to be using 20 volume. Even though we're going darker, we're covering gray, and we're dealing with coarse hair. So 20 volume is going to be the best option here. So again, we'll use our 20 volume developer by Koleston Perfect. And we are going to do something in level 4 because we know that's going to be our target shade. And again, we've got gray in our formula, so we need something in the neutrally world. Now, if you can think about it, again, our hair texture is very coarse. Very, very, very coarse hair. Down right there. And so because it's coarse, we probably need more pigment. Coarse meaning her hair texture feels like a guitar string. It's going to be very, very hard to get all that color in there. So we're going to go for 4-4 stroke 0. And we are going to use 75% of our formula is going to be this double pigment neutral. So 75%, 4-4 stroke 0, 20 volume, that is going to cover the gray. Now we need to pick our tone. This one's kind of easy because we're going darker, we're not going lighter. Even though we're going darker, we are exposing a little bit of underlying pigment at a level 4. It's going to be quite deep. It's kind of hard for the eye to see this warmth. So if we want to see some really nice warmth, I would go for something like 4 stroke 7-7 in Koleston Perfect at 25% of our formula. So Becky came in with a level 5, wanting to go to a level 4. Let me outline my box. Sorry, one more time. Stand by. So, going from a level 5 to a level 4, 75% gray. That's all taken care of with this formula. Because she's got coarse hair, we need the double pigment. Because she's got coarse hair and we're dealing with gray, we're going to use 20 volume. And because we want something as a warm result at a level 4, it's really hard to get that. So we're going to use the warmest color we have, at a level 4 in Koleston Perfect. So that's going to be a level 4 brown. Can you say that 4? That's a level 4. 25%. So all this is going to give us the result from our diagnosis here of Becky's hair. So all you YouTube fans who follow me on YouTube, I hope this helps. And these are just a couple examples of how you can cover gray. There is a million formulas you can do to cover it, but the rule of thumb is what we talked about. So to recap, I use level 6s for an example. So if we're dealing with the pure line, 6 pure, where there's nothing afterwards, typically I would suggest using that on fine hair. If we're working with a 6 stroke 0 or anything stroke 0 to cover gray, you're going to be working that on medium textured hair. And then again, if you're using double pigmented hair color, you're typically going to be working on coarse strands of hair. Again, typically, because there's always a typically and a maybe and an if, you're usually going to use 20 volume, and remember the rule of thumb is percentage of gray that there is to cover is the percentage of neutral needed in your formula. Neutral meaning some one of these right here. So, I hope this helps. If anyone has any questions, I would love to hear them in the comments. Also, if there's any videos you want to see, let me know, I guess. And for bookings, if you would like to, I am here in Northgate, Seattle, Washington, a Patent Hair Studio and Solo Salon Suites number 12. You can book online at www.patenthairstudio.com or follow me on Instagram and or Facebook. Without further ado, I will see all y'all later.